Hello there, Dr. Neptune here. Today I'm going to talk about one of the great artists of our time, daughter of Iceland, Bjork. Her name is, I think, actually supposed to be pronounced Bjork if you're speaking in the Icelandic lingo, but I've called her Bjork all my life, and that's how I think most Westerners probably pronounce the name anyway. So no disrespect intended, but Bjork is one of my all-time favorites. This is her album called Debut, came out in 1993, although this is not Bjork's actual first solo album. That one came out when she was 11 years old. She had her entry sent into Iceland's main radio station and got played on the air, and one thing led to another, and Bjork had her first solo album, and everyone in Iceland already knew who she was by the time she was 11. So she's been singing and creating art ever since she was a child, even younger than that. Some of her early life was spent in some kind of artistic commune, and her parents were very artistic as well. She spent her teen years in a lot of different kind of groups, punk groups and jazz combos and other type things, and then was in the Sugar Cubes, most notably, before she was a solo artist. I actually saw the Sugar Cubes. I didn't know much about them other than they sounded to me like a lame version of the B-52s, who I didn't like all that much either. They were on, this is Bjork's second album, Post. Sugar Cubes were the first of three bands on the bill that day, and the other two were Blondie's Debbie Harry, I should say, and the Ramones, and I was much more interested in both of those acts, which were spectacular. Here's the single from Post, one of the singles, called Hyper Ballad. So I have actually seen Bjork live in concert, although I didn't even bother to get close enough to the stage to take a look. But ever since that very first solo album, Debut, I've listened and loved all of her releases. There's a third one. This one called Homogenic, gowned by Alexander McQueen. Bjork's always collaborated with other artists, both musically and visually, and with videos and all kinds of other ways. It's one of the things that makes her body of work so rich and complex and interesting. Homogenic. And then this was a remix album called Telegraph. Telegram, I should say. Can you see that? Maybe not. Bjork has always done different versions of her songs as well. This one I really like a lot. A lot of electronica type sounds of the very late 90s in here. And Bjork, as I said, is a great collaborator with other artists, including visually, so I have a few videos of her on DVD and Blu-ray that I've got throughout the years. This one is one of a series. It has her MTV Unplugged appearance from '94. I think all these songs are from the first album, Debut, and then here is a MTV live show from '98. I believe that's live in the studio. And these are songs from the second album, I think, mostly. And then this is her soundtrack to a film that she starred in. soundtrack is Selma songs. The film Dancer in the Dark, which she also she was the lead actress in, and she won the Best Actress prize at the Cannes Film Festival that year, around '01, I think this was. One of these songs is a duet with Tom York of Radiohead. I think it's number 3. I've seen it all. That's an amazing movie. It's heartbreaking. Her performance is, and the whole movie is. It's directed by Lars von Trier, who's known for making very emotionally wrenching, if not downright horrific types of films. He's a controversial filmmaker. And apparently the experience with him was so bad, so traumatic for Bjork, that she just vowed never to act again after that. He, by her account, put her through some pretty hefty emotional ups and downs, especially considering that she was essentially an amateur actress. But, as I say, she won the prize at Cannes that year. Was, I think, also nominated for an Academy Award, and that's the year that she showed up at the Oscars in her famous swan dress. And she didn't win that, but she did win the Cannes. And then here, around this time, this video compilation came out. I actually first had this on a VCR tape, and then when it came time for CDs and DVDs, I upgraded to this. It's a collection of her videos from about her first maybe 3 or 4 albums, and some singles in there too. All of these are really worth checking out, made with some incredible video artists and designers, and I'm talking fashion designers as well as graphic designers. All available on YouTube now, of course, but back then you had to have a library like this to see them on demand. So I'm going chronologically through Bjork's career here, showing the music and the videos as they came out. This is her next album, Vesper Teen. And with this album, there you see the swan motif, right? So that was all around the same time. Swan there too. Okay, and then this is a spectacular concert at the Royal Opera House in London. It says Vesper Teen Live. Just an incredible performance all the way through. Some instruments were invented specifically for this album. Some odd electronic or not type instruments. And there's different musicians and vocalists. That just gives you a picture of one of these instruments. This is something that she plays somehow. Really innovative in its staging, and a beautiful, beautiful performance all the way through. Next album was called, I'm looking at this, Medulla is this one. Medulla, this one is notable for the fact that it's almost entirely vocal sounds. Almost 0 instruments on there. Any kind of percussion that you hear is made by people making noise with their mouths. And there's choirs and other different kinds of vocalists. Even I think one of those throat vocalists from the Asian jungle. I forget where. There is a minimal amount of instrumentation on a couple of the tracks, almost unnoticeable, but almost overwhelmingly. It's an entirely vocalized album, which is very interesting and still accessible. And then here's the accompanying video that came with it. That picture is meant to be blurred. I love the title of this. The inner or deep part of an animal or plant structure. It comes from a snippet of dialogue in there. It's the making of Medulla. And it shows the personnel and the different singers recording and making the music. It's a very fascinating document. Okay, and then her next album was called Volta. This is a pretty cool packaging of it. Triple fold there. And the booklet is inside here, I think. Oh, it's not a booklet, it's a poster. Let's take a look. Again, this would be a collaboration with a costume designer or artist. She worked a lot with native artists, native to Iceland and other cultures of the north. She has the Nunavut choir, I think, on this album and on some others. Really incredibly striking visuals there. And lyrics. And then for Volta, she had a special box set edition, Voltaic. CD, live in the studio, DVD, live in Paris and in Reykjavik. Third disc, DVD, the Volta videos. Not sure exactly what that is. And then a CD of different mixes of the songs. Cool packaging. Nested. Photographing some of what we just saw. Any Bjork performance is worth checking out. There's a ton of them, as you can see in my collection, and all over the internet, I'm sure. Then Blu-rays came along, so here is Bjork. This is an interview, I think, done for BBC. It says in the UK it was broadcast 2013 with David Attenborough, the famous scientist, when Bjork met Attenborough. It's really a discussion between those two and some other scientists. Bjork is deeply, deeply committed to the environment, not just in Iceland, but all over the world. And has many, many environmental and biological themes of her work, and most especially with this one, which is called Biophilia. And this came out right around the same time as the David Attenborough interview. And this is a song cycle specifically about the earth and humans' effect on it, and songs involving cosmology, the moon. A lot of these titles are scientific, dark matter, and so on. Here's the disc. And then with this one I have Biophilia live. With a Blu-ray here and a C2 CD set here. And then Bjork, cutting edge as always, when she put out Biophilia. It came out 2011, accompanied with its own app. An app that I have. And here it is. Lights out for this part of the show to make this show up easier. Amazingly, I was able to bring back this iPod back to life, charged it up, and here's Bjork's Biophilia app. Best seen, of course, on an iPad. This was state-of-the-art iPod when it came out, and I'm just going to show you a couple things about how it works. So each song has its own little section. This is a whole constellation that you can rotate, get a different view of. And if you zero in on one or the other, some music is playing there. And we'll just click on this star there. Okay. It again. Takes us to a song here called Hollow. And so here's the song's page, and there's a description of it, sometimes quite lengthy, explaining the connection to the scientific theme of the album. And then each song has a score, which if you are a musician, you can follow along with as it plays. Animation, here's a different version of the score. Sorry for this delay. Okay, so it's not what I thought it was. She has her own notation that she uses in some of these apps. Okay, that's not very visually interesting, so I'm going to go back and if you hit play, that's where the actual interactive part of the app comes in. You can manipulate the screen. Each time I touch it, it does something, but obviously not. Alright, I'm doing a terrible job of showing this thing, but sorry. It was harder than I thought it would be, but I think you get the picture anyway. That was pretty cutting edge to have an app come out like that, and it was extremely interactive. The problem that I had with it was that I'm not musical at all, and all of those apps have this feature where you touch the screen and it makes musical notes, and then you combine them to make a song and things like that. But I just could never get very far, and found it very, very confusing. There are a series of YouTube videos, though, that were made by Bjork with the creator of the app, and he takes you through each one of those songs and shows exactly how to use the app, which I could have maybe used back in the day, but I didn't know they were there until I started doing research for this video. But anyway, that was their Biophilia app. Now this is a reissue of her first 7 albums. It's called Surrounded, and you can see the titles that we just went through. The only one that's new, that is new to this showing is this one here. It's called Drawing Restraint 9, and that is a soundtrack to a film that her then husband did, Matthew Barney, who is an American experimental filmmaker, and they since divorced. But she was with him for quite some time, had a child with him, has another child. I believe she has 2 children. And then here, so here's just all these discs, remastered, remixed, and there's a CD side and a DVD side for each one. All the songs on the DVD side are in 5.1 surround sound, and then all of the videos are also in surround sound. So I replaced every single one of those discs that I showed you before with these new upgraded 5.1 editions. And there's the Drawing Restraint film. And then I've got here the live box. This is each one of her first 4 albums. That's 3 and 4. Yeah, each one of her first 4 albums live in completion for every song. And then a bonus DVD. And then all of these were also issued separately. So you could buy them. You could buy only one or the other if you wanted, but these are just fantastic recordings and performances. Some of them at big concerts, some of them in more intimate venues. It really shows just how dynamic and interesting a performer Bjork is. This is from the Vesper Teen shows. Oh, here's the bonus DVD. Different performances, including 2 from the Royal Opera House DVD that I showed you before, and 1 from the MTV Unplugged. And detailed, comprehensive booklet of that. Okay, and then here, this is called Family Tree. This is kind of a greatest hits album, kind of not. Very interestingly packaged. There's a paper outside, and then this pink plastic container inside. This is the greatest hits, about a dozen of her singles and best known songs up to this time. Booklet, and this artwork is done by someone that she knew or knows. I think it's all the same artist. Then what we have here are 5 mini discs. All right, these are 3-inch CDs. Normal disc size is 5 inches. These actually play, although probably not in all CD players. I wouldn't stick it in the dashboard of a car. It might get swallowed up. But issued in this format. And this is called Roots. It includes some early songs of Bjork's with titles in Icelandic. These are early versions of her solo songs. I think maybe these last two songs might be Sugar Cube songs. That's Roots. This one is called Beats. And this one is called Strings, done with the Brodsky Quartet, which is a very, very well-known, well-respected classical string quartet. All of these versions of all these songs are fantastic. Long ago when I got this, I'm not sure what the date is on this. Oh, okay, 2002. And then, so I burned my own versions of those mini discs just so I could play them in the car and, well, in any disc player. And these pictures I got from the artwork of the CDs. Right, so I've got the Roots and the Beats, and here are the Strings. The Brodsky Quartet. I was proud of my work on these two labels here. Okay, and then finally, this is turning out to be one of my longest videos, but a lot to say about Bjork. Finally, I have two books. This one came out in '01. It's simply called Bjork, and here it says it's a project by Bjork. It's mainly photographs and artwork, some stories. This is a cover of the book, and it's a story in itself. There's credits for all of these artists. Bjork didn't write that story. These are all photographers that she's worked with, and an example of their work. So Nori Brothers. The way that this is set up is that the photographer's name appears here and the photograph appears on the next page. So striking imagery all the way through of Bjork's work with those photographers. You just saw a CD cover there. So kind of a compilation of her collaborative work with those visual artists, even non-photographic work, stills from videos, album covers again, some text, some interviews, brief little stories, work by other artists. And the last item, also a book or book type thing, Bjork Mid-Career Retrospective with New Commission Piece for the Museum of Modern Art in New York City. This is the exhibition catalog. I didn't go to the exhibition, but I purchased this online. I collect art books as well. I have a number of exhibition catalogs from MoMA. That's how well respected Bjork is in the art world, that she got her own exhibition. So not just as a musical artist, but as a visual artist and a collaborator with others. She achieved this great honor, got this great honor from MoMA. And in typical Bjork style, this isn't your typical art book. It comes as in this case, and I guess it's supposed to resemble a series of musical scores in this container, because you got these different sections, each one with a musical score and lyrics to one or more, or to one of her songs. Right, and so these would serve really as chapters if it was all one book, but each one has its own separate discussion. And this is one of the more kind of evocative sections. I looked through this earlier to prepare for this video, and a couple of the sections are very academic in tone, serious art critic type works, which is fine. It's very thoughtful, but a little dense. I like the sections that are a little bit more freeform and artistic, maybe by other artists. So this one is called A Psychographic Journey Through the First 7 Albums of Bjork. So with what looks like poetry that touches on the themes that you find in each one of those albums of hers. I really liked looking through this. And then here's the other sections are more traditional, like I said, chapters in a book, so I'll just show the covers and not all the contents. And that's part of the packaging. And then this is kind of a little special extra. It's a poster sheet of stamps. These are. Each one has a little detachment here, if you were so inclined, I guess, to detach them. But I can't show the whole thing in one frame. But it's a chronological sequence of all of Bjork's CD releases. So you see, I only own a fraction of what's available out there. Tons of these remixes and things right from the start. But just really interesting to see the progression through the years, taking us right up to 2015. And then concurrent with this MoMA exhibition, she wrote a song called Black... Oh gosh, the name escapes me. Black Lake? Something like that. I might say on here, but anyway. She wrote this song, what was supposed to be just one song, in conjunction with this whole exhibition. There was a video installation that went along with it. Then she went ahead and just completed a whole album. Surprise released it, and that album is called Vulnerakira. It's an excellent album. And then her latest release since then, is I believe 2017. Her last album, Bjork's, was in 2017. It's called Utopia. And like most of, or many of my collection that I've already shown, at one point I just stopped buying physical CDs and streamed the music, so I don't have anything to show from those last 2 releases, but both of them entirely up to Bjork standards, I can happily report. So sorry for that little glitch right at the end, but I had a lot to show, and I hope you enjoyed looking through my collection of Bjork. Okay, Dr. Neptune signing out, and I will be back soon.